What's going on, all you fabulous gamers? My name is Fabulous Potts, and today we're going to be doing a little discussion about if Murlocs and Nagas would actually be a considerable playable race in a next upcoming expansion. We're going to be going through the pros and cons of what could be very good about doing this, and what could just be complete shit about doing this. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, I can see Murlocs teaming up with the Horde to take control of whatever territory the Naga are currently using right now. And this would create a whole new conflict and storyline for these two new playable races. Let's just talk about the pros of what the Murlocs would have compared to the Naga. Okay, Murlocs, they actually have legs. They are somewhat resemblance of a humanoid character. And they can look pretty decent in armor. With this picture that I'm displaying right now on the screen, you can see that this is actually a fake picture. I think it's photoshopped or it's actually in a private server. But this is the Prot Warrior BOA, and I can actually see this happening. They actually look very decent. You can see that they can actually wear boots. They have nice bracers. The shoulder pads actually look decent on them, and you can actually fit a helmet on them, and it doesn't look terrible. And weapons wouldn't look too bad either. This one's actually wielding a polearm, but if you picture him with a sword and shield, it actually looked pretty decent in my opinion. For both of these races, they would be very relevant to an underwater expansion. As you know, Murlocs actually group together in little tribes and stay by shallow bodies of water like streams, rivers, ponds, lakes even, and it would just make sense to have them in the next upcoming underwater expansion if there actually is one created. Would it be sensible? Yes, I think it would. Murlocs really haven't been introduced in many expansions, but they happen to be the icon of World of Warcraft and Blizzard. For BlizzCon, every year they give out a Murloc pet, so actually introducing them as a playable race would just make a lot of sense to me. It is also increasingly believed that they are actually a very ancient race of Azeroth. So with that being said, we can actually take some time to go back and just see like the history of the Murlocs. We can actually have them in the beginning quest line being slaves to the Naga when they once were, and then them breaking away from the Naga, and then if you continue to play the quest line, and even with dungeons in an upcoming water expansion, you can actually have them attacking a certain group of the Naga. It would just seem really cool, and it just makes a lot of sense to me. But then again, it could just be a really bad idea. Okay, so let's jump right into the Naga pros. The Naga are former highborn night elves who mutated into vengeful humanoid sea serpents. If you read lore, then you would know that the Naga actually were night elves at one point, but they conjured up a lot of evil demons, tampered in the dark magic pretty much. The other night elves made a deal with the old gods, and then the old gods shapeshifted them into what they are today as Nagas, but they were banished. And it would be really cool, which I'm going to get into my next topic, is if the Naga actually came back and made an alliance with the night elves after being transformed by the Night Elves and team up to fight the Murlocs. That would be very interesting to see. The Night Elves actually forgive, the Nagas, and just to see them basically forgive and forget, and band together into these factions and go head to head at it to control a certain territory. And another thing would be really cool is if the Naga were actually to have a racial ability to turn to Night Elf form, but only when they're out of combat. So just like the Worgen. The Worgen can have the ability to transform back into their human form, but once they come into combat, they turn right back into the Worgen. So that would be actually a really cool idea to see the Naga be able to do. Another cool thing would be that the Naga have a lot of slaves, so if they were playing as a hunter, they can have an ability or a spell, kind of like what Warlocks have, enslave, like an enslaved demon kind of spell, and actually be able to take control of an enemy's pet and use it against them. I think that would just be a really cool idea. Now let's jump right into the cons. The cons for Murloc. They have an incomprehensible language, but I think we can get around that. Maybe if we gave them, like, the Horde gave them, like, a certain trinket of sorts to actually put around, maybe like a collar. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but just give them something to actually translate into, like, Orcish or something that the Horde can understand, and that's an easy way to get around it. But if Blizzard didn't want to do that, all they can say would be Murgle. Another thing, no female gender models. I don't think there's ever been really any female Murlocs that I've seen, and I've done a lot of research on it. I didn't find one thing, except for the fact that there was a mask that was given out for female Murlocs that people could actually wear, kind of like the Hollow's End mask that you got during the event. But I think that was really more just like a joke. Now, the Naga cons. The armor does not look right on Naga. I mean, they have tails and they're slithery serpents, snakes. So how would they wear boots? You know, it just doesn't look right to me. I tried looking at some pictures on Google for Nagas wearing armor, and the chest piece, the shoulder plates, and I suppose the helm would look okay. I can't really see them wearing a helm either. It just doesn't look right in my opinion. It doesn't seem natural for them to wear anything. So if they can't wear boots, that would just basically bring down a lot of stamina for health and things like that. So that's another thing that we might need to consider of why Naga wouldn't be a really good race to play as. But maybe they can evolve. Maybe the old gods, felt bad and gave them legs and things like that. Maybe they evolved a little bit, or maybe even a new generation of Naga that evolved from just a slithering serpent to actually forming legs. Like maybe some kind of evolution happened. I don't know. Just something to think about, food for thought. And my brother really wanted me to throw this in here. My brother says they look like inbred mermaids. So there you go, Tom. That's for you. Have fun with that one. Now let's talk about playable classes for these two possibly new races that we could play. I think that Murlocs would be good warriors, hunters, shamans, mage, and rogues. Warriors just being for the simple fact that almost every class can be, actually every class can be warriors. It really doesn't matter size or anything like that. I mean, if you've seen a gnome warrior, it's very small, but still can wreck you. Now, Murlocs being hunters, I can see it, but at the same time, I can also put a little hole in that plan as seeing that most of their pets would be bigger than them. And it makes somewhat of a sense because if you think about it, Murloc's just charging into battle as a hunter with a smaller pet than them. It doesn't really look like that their pet would, do much damage to such a tiny creature. And plus, the Murlocs being tiny creatures, it just doesn't seem like they would put in a lot of damage. So it doesn't seem very realistic. But then again, this is an MMO. Not everything has to be realistic. Shaman. I can see them definitely being shamans as they live around water and things. I can see them dabbling with the elements and things. I don't know. It just seems to make a lot of sense to me. Now, mage, maybe. It seems plausible, but at the same time, it's like, how would it look, really? Especially because they're underwater creatures. Well, they're amphibious. So having them being a fire mage doesn't really make sense. But Frost Mage makes a little bit more sense, and Arcane I can see as well. So it'd have to be something that Blizzard would have to consider being the mages, but it wouldn't really bother me if they weren't. And rogues. I can see them definitely being rogues because of their size. They're very small, so when they went into stealth, it'd make a lot more sense for a smaller class to be a rogue instead of just like this huge orc. Let's say an orc as a rogue. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because they're so big and stealth. Like you would imagine that you'd see them, but it all makes sense in the end. But just seeing Murlocs as rogues just makes a lot more sense to me than an orc. Now the possible Naga playable classes, Warlocks. I could definitely see them being Warlocks because if you read the lore, it says something or another about the Nagas actually summoning demons when they were basically power hungry and power struck. So it would make a lot of sense for them to be warlocks because they have experienced that before. And priests, I can definitely see them being priests, just for the simple fact that if you really looked at it, would a Murloc be a good priest? No, it wouldn't make sense. But as a Naga, out of the two possible playable races, I just think it makes a lot more sense to me. And it would just be cool to see a Naga priest, It would just be really cool to have a Naga healing you or being a shadow priest. Seeing a shadow Naga would be really cool. Mage. I can definitely see them being mages. Yes, again, they are somewhat amphibious, I suppose, because they're water serpents, but at the same time, it's just like seeing a mage or just seeing a Naga casting an arcane blast at you would just be fucking hilarious to me, and it makes more sense than Murlocs. Shaman. Definitely can see them being Shaman for the simple fact of what I said about Murlocs. I can see them definitely dabbling with the elements. And of course, Warrior, because every class can be a Warrior. I can definitely see these both being playable races in the near or far future. Is it something that can happen? Yes, possibly. But is it something everyone wants? Probably not. I can see a lot of people wanting Naga more than Murlocs, but at the same time, you have to really consider, do we even want any of them? Would the expansion make sense? Yeah, I think the expansion would make sense. I think they can do a lot with the storylines between Murlocs and Nagas. You can make a lot more new content with these two races, but I don't know if everyone would really enjoy it. The underwater expansion idea, I think, can be really cool. Let's say in Cataclysm, with that whole underwater questing area, I didn't really enjoy it that much, but I think they have a lot more potential with what they can do with an underwater expansion, especially with the Nagas. I think the Nagas can have some really cool background history that we might just be finding out, or especially with the Murlocs, we really don't know much about them. So to actually experience and learn more about them, the icons of Blizzard, would just be very fun. But am I seeing this coming out soon? No, I don't see this coming out soon. I think they might go to doing this as a last resort if they ran out of ideas. I can see the Emerald Nightmare being our next expansion, but that's for a whole nother video. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you are as fabulous as I think you are, go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know what you guys think below about this little topic that's been going around lately. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay fabulous. I can see the Murlocs teaming up with the Horde to what? Good job, Zach. Good job. Okay, I can see the Murlocs teaming up with the Horde to God damn it! What the fuck? Why is this so hard? Okay, I can see the Murlocs Murlops. Come on. Okay, take 725.